They're taking money out of our system. They're taking our jobs. They're taking our manufacturing. They're taking our money. They're manipulating their currency so our companies can't compete. Of course he's going to say that, Elizabeth. What's he going to say? Oh, we're just killing them? He's going to say it's a win-win because we have stupid leaders. We have incompetent people in our country. We have an incompetent president. He doesn't know what's happening. We're being ripped off by the Chinese.
Yeah. And that, of course, newly declared presidential candidate Donald Trump yesterday, doubling down on his harsh criticism of China and his claims that President Obama is either unwilling or unable to counter the communist country. Joining me now in a Fox interview exclusive is Eric Trump. He is the executive vice president of development and acquisitions at the Trump Organization. And actually, your dad was on Fox and Friends this morning, so that was from there. Eric, good to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, Mary.
Thank you so much for joining us. I want to talk really about some of the statements that your father said yesterday in terms of, look, I'm going to be the best, job creator that God has ever seen. I'm really rich. They were sort of like one-liners that now everybody's talking about in the press. How does he get beyond this perception of, well, he's saying everything that everybody wants him to say and that we all believe, but he's not a traditional candidate and he's coming across as sort of, very, New York or something like that. How does he get beyond that?
Well, I think his platform is being a non-traditional candidate. I think the traditional candidates have put us in the problem that we have. I mean, we have $18 trillion worth of debt, right? We have $2 billion worth of federal deficit that goes up every day. I mean, that's literally 3-4 skyscrapers in New York by comparison. I mean, it's astronomical. We have ISIS, right? We've got a failed educational system. We have serious problems. And he's kind of saying, I don't want to be the conventional candidate. I want to be the guy who took a very small company out of Brooklyn, Queens, grew to this worldwide organization, this really, multinational company that everybody knows around the world. And I want to do the same with the United States.
He really did. And that is the essence of the great things about America, being able to build a company and grow it like your father did. But, when you look at something like, for example, the media, the Daily News today, basically making fun of Donald Trump for running for president. That's really what I'm getting at. I mean, I think what he's saying are all very important issues for voters to be thinking about. And yet, the media sort of blows it off, like what we saw on the Daily News cover today. How do you get away from that?
And quite frankly, making fun of success, which is so anti-American in a certain way.
Absolutely.
I mean, he embraces success. So many candidates have run away from success. He's done an amazing job. If you look back in time, if you look at Jefferson, if you look at so many of the great presidents, right, they were successful guys who had great stature. And they ran the country because they were the most competent person to run a country, right? That's why they became president of the United States. We don't have that anymore. What? We have people who have been in office their whole lives. They need to be in office. The one thing about my father, he doesn't need to be in office. He has an amazing life. He has an amazing family. We have an amazing company. We're growing all across the world, right? I mean, we're doing awesome things. He doesn't need to be in office.
I think you make a really good point.
But yet when he opens up the Wall Street Journal, he watches Fox or he watches any of these things, and he sees that $18 trillion, and he sees ISIS, and he sees this failing educational system, and he sees all these, bad trade deals and nuclear weapons, and the fact that we're effectively at war on every continent of the world. If you look at what's happening with Russia and what's happening in the Middle East and what's happening with China and what they're doing. I mean, it's a very sad thing. I mean, the one thing about my father, he's a patriot. He loves America more than you can possibly imagine, and he's sick of the nonsense.
But I think that you make a really good point in terms of the wealth, because when we saw Mitt Romney, for example, a couple of years ago, he tried to sort of distance himself from his wealth. Your father is embracing it all in. Yeah, I'm really rich. Deal with it.
Sure. He's done a great job.
Yeah.
He's built a hell of a company. I mean, he's done an unbelievable job. He should embrace that. And that's part of the American dream. That's what people strive to do. The people on this channel right now watching this, right? I mean, they're wanting to make millions. They're wanting to be very successful. They want the best for our kids. And it's actually a very sad day if the next generation might not live the same quality of life as a former. That's never happened in America before. We always want better for our kids than, quite frankly, we want for ourselves. And given, the debt levels, given all these problems around the world, we might not see that with the next generation.
It was very nice when your dad yesterday introduced everybody in the family. The family was sort of off stage, and he named everybody there. And you have, it seems, a very close-knit family. Tell us how this decision was made. Tell us something we don't know in terms of how the family weighed in terms of his decision to run for president.
Well, we are incredibly close. I mean, I consider my father my best friend. He's my mentor. He's also the guy I sit across from, on a daily basis in the boardroom, right? And he's a great negotiator. And, I could see it build. I could see his frustration with politics built. People say things. They're always talking about these promises. They never actually deliver. And the one thing I'll say about my father, and I see this again, building buildings all over the world. When he says he's going to do something, he does it. When Walman Rink was falling apart, he went and he saved it for the city. When Ferry Point, which is a great golf course, couldn't be built, he came in. He saved it, right? He gets things done. He has innate ability to do that, and he does so very, very quickly. He cuts through red tape, right? It's just not how he thinks. He doesn't think about little minor details. He thinks very, very large about the big picture and about getting things done. And he talks about the infrastructure of this country, right? We're bleeding all this money, but yet you've got airports like LaGuardia that are falling apart. You walk through the terminals and you've got acoustical tile ceilings that are crumbling. You've got marble that's cracked. The bathrooms you don't even want to walk into. They're totally disgusting. And then we go overseas. I travel overseas for various jobs, and you go into Dubai and the terminals
Gorgeous.
are marble and they have chandeliers and this and that. And
Yeah.
that's not how he wants America represented.
Did anybody within the family push back? I mean, here you are opening yourself. You were already living in a fishbowl, right? And here now it's an even bigger fishbowl where the media and everybody will scrutinize every little thing that's said. Did anybody in the family push back and say, look, Dad, what about your siblings? Anybody say maybe this is not a good idea?
No, truthfully not.
No,
Because
they wanted him to.
we think you'd be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, again, we have that innate perspective of, doing what we do and having, he's the man that raised us.
How
He
does
would do amazing.
how does the business background translate to running the free world?
Well, I mean, let's just talk about spending, right? You see these bridges that are being built, right? They spend $5-6 billion on a bridge. You could probably build for a third of that. I mean, I think it's bringing a level of practicality in, right? It's when you're used to dealing with your own money, I think you're much more cautious with money. When you're dealing with, tons and tons of zeros at the end of a number, you just stop caring. I mean, when was the last time, anybody in the government has actually talked about the national deficit? And when was the last time we heard Obama talk about the national deficit in $18 trillion? It doesn't happen.
It's unbelievable.
No one even speaks about it. They don't even care about balancing budgets. It is absolutely contrary to the normal business world.
And before you go, Eric, tell us your take on real estate right now in New York and across the world. What are you seeing out there?
Well, listen, in New York, obviously prices have gone, tremendously high. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Russia. Obviously, they're delivering less money based on the fact that, oil prices have taken a big hit. If you look at China, they're obviously softer economy. So I think maybe on the very high end, you're going to probably see a slowdown in those $100+ million apartments. If you look at Florida, they're doing amazingly well. So, it's really zip code by zip code, but they've got great tax incentive. A lot of people are flocking down there. All of Central and South America wants to be in Miami. So you see a $300 market back in 2009, 2010. That's now a $1,500 market. So, some markets are doing great, and some markets have, quite frankly, never really pulled out of the recession.
Eric, great to have you on the show today.
It's great to be here.
Thank you
Maria.
so much. We'll
Thank
be
you.
watching your dad's campaign.
Thank you.
Eric Trump joining us. Forget the